Let us try to understand the concept of tool calling or function calling that we constantly hear. Suppose you ask ChatGPT that what is the capital of United States? Now, because ChatGPT is trained on data, it has a cutoff date and it is a static information, because this capital of United States does not change every day, right? So this is a static information, and because ChatGPT is trained on that particular data, it will answer you that capital of US is Washington DC. Or maybe you can ask anything: where does this particular state lie in? How many continents are there world? ChatGPT is smart enough and trained enough to answer such question. But suppose you tweak a question that you ask, what is the temperature in Washington DC? Now here the difference is that temperature is something that is not constant always. It keeps on changing every moment, right? And because ChatGPT, for example, has a cutoff date, or any LLM for say it has a cutoff date, so it cannot provide you the live information at any point of time. And before the concept of tool calling or function calling, ChatGPT used to reply, sorry, I don't have the live information. My cutoff knowledge date is this. Right? So this is the idea that LLMs have the limitation to provide real-time information if you are looking for. And this is where the concept of tool calling and function calling steps in. So what happens here is that we connect ChatGPT or our LLM with an external third-party tool. Now this third-party tool is capable of providing live information. For example, this weather tool, if you give a location to this, it can give you live temperature. Now LLM does not have the capability of giving a live temperature, but it has the capability of invoking a tool which can provide you this input. So what we do is that we attach this, or basically we bind this tool to this LLM and provide a description that this tool is used to get the current weather conditions for a specified location. So this description is very important, because when you connect this third-party tool to ChatGPT, you provide a description that okay, based on your existing knowledge, you also have an external tool to which you can connect for this particular conditions. So whenever anyone asks a live question, ChatGPT would know that okay, it has a connectivity to an external tool which it can invoke and can get the live information. Now let us see what will be the final flow of this execution. User will ask, what is the temperature in Washington DC? Now LLM has to decide whether it has to invoke a third-party tool call or it can answer from its own knowledge base. Now because this information is a live information and LLM cannot answer from its knowledge base, so it will do a tool call. So it will generate a JSON in the backend which will mention tool call. Otherwise, if it was not a tool call, it will directly reply. So in the tool call, it will give you the name of the tool. So whatever name you define, for example, I have given get current weather. So it will define the name of that tool and it will give you the arguments. Now because this particular tool in actually it takes an input. So whatever that input is will go in the arguments. And right now it is taking the input as Washington DC. So this is the JSON that will work, that ChatGPT will generate. And now we have to code it such a way that we pass this information, or we extract this particular entity or argument from this response and we pass it to weather tool. Now when we pass this Washington DC to weather tool, now this will reply me a JSON mentioning location is this, temperature is this, condition is this. Okay, so now this information you will again embed to LLM that this was the user question, this was the result of the tool call, and LLM being a text model, it can read it and it can generate a good readable answer that current temperature in Washington DC is 24 degrees centigrade and it's cloudy. So this is how it is going to work, the overall flow, that user will ask a question, ChatGPT has to decide whether it has to answer from knowledge base or it has to do a tool call. For a tool call, it will make a JSON like this. Then we have to write a function. Remember, ChatGPT will not execute this function. So this is the misconception in a lot of people, that ChatGPT automatically invokes. No, ChatGPT will only return you the input that you can pass to this external tool. You have to write a code to basically pass that input to the model or the third-party tool. And once it replies, you can again pass it to ChatGPT to give the response. So this is the overall flow. Now let's look at the coding perspective. So for this demo, I'm going to use a third-party tool which will provide me live weather information based on a user input. So this website is 𝗵𝗏𝗄𝗏𝗏.com. It's a free website. You can get free API calls up to certain limit. So you can simply create an account on this and you will get a free API because you'll be needing that. And I think you can make 1000 API calls for free of cost. So we will be using that to get the API key from this. And now let's go back to our code. So this is our code. I'll be using OpenAI GPT-4 model for this. So I'll be installing OpenAI LangChain OpenAI and request model because I'll be sending an API request. So how it is going to do is I will import the chat OpenAI, and from LangChain, I'll be importing this class tool. So tool is a decorator, and you will create a function and you will wrap that function inside a tool. So for example, I have set my OpenAI key, I have set my weather API key, which I got from the website. Now comes the code where I will be creating my third-party tool. So you have to use a tool decorator, which is coming from LangChain, as I mentioned. So it's very simple. You need to create a function, and in the end you need to decorate it using an add tool. Something very important is that you need to specify this description, because LLM will be using this description to understand what is the usage of this tool, and it will try to compare the user question and the description to see whether it should invoke a tool call or not. So I'll provide the path to the website and then the parameters. So basically it needs some parameters, weather API key and the location which you need to provide. And then using request library, I will get the response. So I will run this code. Now I have to bind this third-party tool to my LLM model. So what I'm going to do, I have this LLM where I'm using GPT-4 model, and I'm using LLM.bind tools. So this is very important. You have whatever, so you can have one tool, two tool, multiple tools you can create. So you can pass them inside this argument in form of a list. So for example, let us say you have another tool. You can pass that as well, tool 2, and suppose you have tool 3, and you can create as many tools as you want. So LLM will decide based on the tools given which tool it has to call. So this is the setup part. Now let us say I ask the question that what is the weather in Washington DC right now? So I'll say response equal to this. Once I run this code, I will be getting this response from GPT. Now, if you see, content is not present right now because LLM does not has the right information, but it will generate me additional metadata. And if you see in the metadata, I have something called as tool calls. And here you will see the description. So tool calls, it is saying that I want to call this get current weather. This is the name of the tool call which is trying to call, and it is the argument. The argument is location, which is Washington DC. So this is the output that LLM has generated to get this information, pass on these arguments to whatever tool you have created. So what I will do, I will write a code to extract this particular information and pass it to the third-party tool to get the response. So this is very important. For example, let us say I change this question here. I ask that how many continents are there in the world. Now if I do this, LLM does not need to call a tool. So when I run this part, you will see that LLM will simply give me content, and there is nothing known as tool call, because this is a static information. LLM has that. But if I give information which is live, and there we will need a third-party tool. So this is what I wanted to show you, that when you run this, now content is coming as blank and you can see tool call as some value there. Now what we will do, we will make the tool call here. So if you see what I'm doing, I'm checking if this tool call, because this tool call I'm picking up, if it is present, I'm trying to pass it and get the result from the get current weather by passing the argument that I've created. And when I run this particular code, you will see that I will get this name. This was my initial tool call which LLM provided me, and this is the result. So location this, name this, and region this, and country this, and this is the current temperature. So for example, if you see, this is the temperature it is giving me, this is in centigrade, and all those information it can provide. Now what you can do, you can simply pass this information to LLM again to get a good standard reply. So this is what I wanted to show you, how tool calling works. And tool calling is the whole concept behind agentic functions or agentic frameworks, because what happens that we create multiple tools and we bind them to LLM, and LLM based on the user question route to the current tool. And this is also the same concept which is employed in model context protocol, MCP. There also you set a standard way of communicating between tools and LLMs, and that's how those responses are generated, tool calls are made. So I hope you understood. Please try this code on your own as well, and let me know in the comments if it is clear to you, and I will come up with more tutorial videos soon. And also you will find this workbook in the description of the YouTube video. So thanks again for watching. Please subscribe to DataSense if you have not, and I see you in the next video.